Welcome everybody to the first ever episode of the Factory Floor, a podcast where we will dig into the rabbit hole that is world building. And let's be honest, we'll probably speak just a little bit of nerd this evening. I have with me an esteemed group that I met through the world building website at Stack Exchange. And we'll go into that website a little bit later on in the episode. So to get things started and introduce everybody, I have with me Nex, Green, and Whoosh. And we will start with Nex. Define world building for me.
Okay, so it's crafting sort of combination, I guess, of the setting and the history that go together. It's like a framework of the story. It's how the story, it's not the characters, but it's the world they live in, and it's building that going through maybe languages, going through species, how magic works, how your science works, your scope of civilization, societies, cultures. So.
Very nice. Green, what do you got?
I think of world building as the systems that underpin a world that that characters behave within. So building on Nexus definition, it's the society, it's the economy, it's politics. It also includes like little mechanics like, is it possible to have planets that that's not very articulate. Like weird planetary systems that you never ever see in real life, but like, could this thing be possible? Well, maybe, and here's the equations that would describe it. I mean, we get those kind of questions all the time.
Yeah, those math questions are
really
way,
long answer.
Way over my head. All right. Whoosh.
HDE for the win.
Yeah, no kidding, right? All right, Whoosh, what do you got?
Okay. So my definition of world building, I might go sort of out in left field here, but like to me, it's kind of like there is a place that exists that also doesn't exist, and then world building is just going there and like exploring it.
I like it.
That's all I have.
That is a fantastic answer. Just for the record, Whoosh won the first round. I didn't warn you guys.
There are rounds.
Are there points? Are you being graded?
There are now.
Ah.
All right, so round two. Share something about yourself that will make people remember you. Let's start with Green.
My number one upvoted question on world building is about transhumanist racism.
Wow, really? I don't think I actually read that one.
Yeah, it's got 104 upvotes.
He's very proud of it.
Now.
Wow. Congratulations.
Dude, I got a gold star for that one.
It's a circle. Don't get too excited.
Whatever.
All right,
I
next.
got gold for it.
My name is probably going to outlive everyone else's here because I have a heavenly body, specifically a planetoid, named after me. So,
right.
that's my interesting claim of fame.
It's named after you?
Yes, it's Canon Quinn, which is my non-username. So.
Gotcha. All right, Whoosh.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go back to world building. The site. I wrote a query once for like the people who have the most votes on each tag, and like the tags that I had the most votes on, like on the entire site, like no one has more votes than me. The two of them that I got were sex and slavery.
That's kind of disturbing. Funny.
Is there a relationship there? Or are they just totally different?
I
thought about checking. I just didn't want to know.
I don't actually want to know either, so I take back my question.
All right.
You win that round, man. I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, he won 2 rounds, just for the record. I myself, I guess I should give you guys something too. I'll go with I am a blacksmith, very novice, mind you, but that should work. How many blacksmiths do you know? I mean, honestly.
I know one.
Right. Wait, me?
Yes, you.
Okay.
No, actually I know 3.
Really? All right. Well,
I
not
know. I
as-
know a silversmith and a jeweler. Does that sort of count? It's kind of like
No.
Okay.
No,
No.
totally different stuff.
Big hammer and glowing hot steel. All right. Let's see here. So, third question: what skills do you guys bring to world building? What's your background? Whether it's education or training or whatever the case may be. What is it that you bring to the collective effort that is world building? And let's start with Whoosh this time.
Oh, you found my secret. So skills. I guess I have like experience sort of building worlds. I've done a lot of fan fiction, so I've got that going for me. I'm learning how to use a sword, so I know a thing or two about combat, which is nice to know. And I have a lot of free time.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes that is an asset.
Yeah.
All right, next.
So I'm really good at making stuff up and making it sound very convincing, and so nobody actually checks my sources and just goes ahead with my answer and upvotes it. So that's happened a few times.
So you're running for president then?
You know what? I've considered it, but I'm not quite that age boundary. So if the
Ah,
nation
right.
still exists when I get to that point, yeah, sure.
It's not a political show.
No parties were named in the making of this podcast.
I will refrain from. I will try and refrain from bringing that up some more. All right, Green.
So as odd as this sounds, I played with Legos a lot when I was a kid.
Those are awesome. Wait, as a kid?
I know, Legos
as
are
a kid?
awesome.
You don't now?
I mean, I have other things to play
His
with
as an
now.
adult realizes how expensive they are, so.
Yeah, but putting pieces together and building up systems. So Lego building plus a software degree. So now I'm taking bits of data and putting them together and seeing how they interact. World building is arranging thought stuff, and writing software is arranging thought stuff. It's the same thing.
Very nice.
And I'm also a capital bullshitter, so that helps too.
Absolutely. All right, I myself, let's see. I got a degree in philosophy, so I finally found a use for it.
Ooh.
I know, right? It only took me
Actually-
like 13 years, but I found a use for it.
I mean,
That was painfully
James, I
honest.
still love that time when we came up with an ontology for all of world building questions. Like
Yes.
I still think about that occasionally. That's really cool.
Uh-huh.
So I'm glad you have the philosophy degree too.
Happy to help. Let's see what else. I read a lot of fiction. I'm looking at my bookshelf for the record. Let's see here. We also have blacksmithing, so it's one of those skills that fits into my interest in fantasy really well. I also have a recurve bow that I like to go shoot once in a while, so that kind of training is, Woosh mentioned it's useful when it comes to talking about how you're building up a world, how people are going to interact, how things happen. So yeah. All right. Any votes for who won round 3? I'm going to go with next personally.
I obviously will go with for next. Next was clearly the.
Next is you.
Oh, what, really?
Oh.
I need to keep track of that better.
No, and okay, no politics and no, referring to ourselves in the third person because that's just obnoxious.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that last one.
Okay. Well,
Alright.
you get fault as the host for the first one.
That's true.
So.
I will take responsibility for that. All right, so we are going to play a little game. Although that first round turned into a little bit of a game too, so we're going to play another game. We're going to play the alignment game. So the I know, right? The premise of the game is everybody's familiar with the alignment chart from D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Lawful to chaotic and good to evil.
The two axes
Yeah.
that you combine to the 3x3 grid, yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I will give you guys the grid, and then I'm going to give you real and/or fictional individuals from the past or present.
Or fictional.
They could be real. They could be fictional.
It could be both.
Ooh.
There's nothing more important than arguing about the alignment of fictional characters. Clearly.
Nice.
So, to begin, let's start with this gentleman right here. That is Sun Tzu, famed Chinese strategist, writer of The Art of War.
Okay. Are we attempting to discover his alignment based on his writings or what we know of his history?
I'm not going to
Both.
require that you base it on anything. You can claim the guy is completely evil and chaotic if you want. It would make no sense, but you can do that. So based on what you know of
Who are
him,
you to judge?
I've read his works. Like, I don't know. I'm not. That's
No, I'm
the-
kidding.
Some.
The best part of the,
So,
the
from
best
his
part of the game
works-
is you can't be wrong.
With the works, it's kind of hard to like. I mean, he like tries to devise, I guess, what you consider good things in warfare. But that's just could be just a good general. So I mean, as far as good versus evil, was a little bit hard. Like he doesn't want you to do, but everything breaks down to, from when I read it like back 5 years ago, breaks down to effective warfare, which you don't have to be necessarily good or evil to want to be effective at whatever you're doing. So
Right.
That is
Warfare
true.
is just a tool.
All right.
the ultimate means
So that
of
would kind of push
policy.
it neutral for me.
It's
All right,
it was ultimate means of policy enforcement. I think I heard it described as
This is true.
Clausewitz, I think, said that.
yes.
Uh-huh.
I'd have to double check, but that sounds right. All right. So Green, where would you put him on the chart?
Like, based just on his works, like it would be true neutral. Like, he's not advocating for like destruction of everybody. Actually, he's probably good because most of what he's talking about is preserve the assets that you have. Don't do stupid frontal assaults where you wipe out half your army. Like, be sneaky about it. Come in around behind and like wipe them out. Win the battle without even fighting, which
Good argument.
sounds distinctly humanist to me. So I would go like at least good. I don't know where I would put him on lawful or unlawful or chaotic, whatever it is.
All right. Next, what do you think?
So, my favorite definition of the difference between lawful and chaotic is that lawful is trying to enforce or create social norms that society can abide by or does abide by. I feel like trying to lay out a organized set of war, and this is trying to come up with the norms of war, and this is the proper protocol, and this is the formulaic. This is how you achieve victory. So I think that makes him very, very strong lawful. Just from his works, though, as far as being, to me, it's just trying to do an effective way of using your craft. So I guess I'd put him as lawful neutral.
All right. Whoosh, what are you feeling?
Yeah, I think I'm tending towards lawful neutral, except I'm sort of wondering if he defined the laws almost, right? And does that mean that he's lawful, or is that he's, I guess, what is it, chaotic on the other side, and like everyone just sort of had to change their way of thinking to fit him?
That's a really good question. Anybody know? Yeah. So if you define the law,
So okay, so Sauron is a classic, I feel, example of lawful evil, but he's making all of his laws.
right?
So I feel like you can make your own laws and still be lawful as long as you're trying to create a society of orderness and a civilization that has the norms that people abide by. So I feel that's valid. There's the leaders and there's the followers, and the leaders create the norms and the followers abide by the norms.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that.
Ironically, I was also going to go with lawful neutral, so that one was weirdly consistent. So let's try round
Next
two.
Except for Pistachio.
Well, right. There's like 4 people that
Hey,
didn't get that
man.
joke, and they're all here.
Well, the 4 people who watch this podcast can all get a 2.
They're all here.
All right, so our next contestant is Sacagawea. Explorer, Lewis and Clark. Thought this one might be a little more challenging. So let's start with Whoosh. What do you think?
Like, I don't know, right? It's like Did she write anything, or did people just write about her?
So she wrote about her, and there's a lot of uncertainty about a lot of the facts of her. So
Yeah, just again, what you know off the top of your head.
Right. I mean, it seems like she was living life how she wanted to. You know, she was going out exploring stuff, helping people. So yeah, I would say I don't remember the middle of the other side.
Neutral.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I would say neutral good, or maybe lawful neutral. One of the two.
All right. Next, how about you?
So, at least the portion of her life that she's known for was helping the gods of St. Louis, aka Lewis and Clark, because they're everywhere in St. Louis if you've ever been there. Actually, it's the whole Missouri. So if you can see that as trying to bridge the cultures and work with the effectively government officials and help them out, I think that kind of pushes it into the lawful side. I'm not aware of anything she did rebellious during any kind of the documentation we have left about her. So I think she's pretty cool, lawful. Whether she was doing it for good, whether she was doing it for evil, or the storybook version, obviously that she's good. But I'm going to be safe and say that neutral because I don't actually know her motivation. So I'm going to say lawful neutral.
All right. Green?
I would have said chaotic good. Helping. Let's see. What time period was Lewis and Clark? Was that like 1840s? 1850s?
It was after the Louisiana Purchase, but I should know the date. But
I don't
Mid,
remember.
early, like first quarter of 1800s, so something like 1830 or something like that.
So at that point, there was a very well-established pattern in the U.S. government oppressing and murdering Native Americans. So she's good in relation to Lewis and Clark and their party, but she's evil as compared to other Native Americans because her efforts and her guiding made it possible for the U.S. government and America in general to like, oh, hey, there's this cool stuff over here. Let's go take it. And oh, there happens to be these Native Americans in the way. Sorry.
That's actually a pretty interesting argument.
So chaotic. She doesn't really care about the order. Like it's inherently a selfish thing. Like I'm trying to stay alive. But generally good. I don't know. I could see an argument for chaotic evil.
I mean, yeah, real
but
people are
totally dependent on what your viewpoint is.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a good game. All right.
True.
So let's do one. Well, at least one more.
So what's your answer to that one?
For Sacagawea?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I was going to go with chaotic good because it felt like a certain flaunting of the accepted order to travel with,
yeah, that's good
people
point.
outside the tribe. And maybe it's, polished history, but always got the impression that she was a good human being. Of course, none of us know her reasoning.
So I should know my history better than that, but I got the impression that from her tribe was in good relations with the United States, and she went willingly. Is that not the case?
I honestly don't know.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
That would make sense because going from Missouri to Oregon is a really long way.
That's a hike.
And there's a lot of opportunities like, oops, you fell off a cliff. Like, there's lots of chances for that kind of thing. So I'm going to call it good.
But to your point, Green, unintended consequences, I'd have to end up going with probably chaotic neutral. Good intentions,
sure.
Potentially bad results. Seems like a reasonable one.
Yeah. Or she could be a total mercenary, and at the end of the trip, she got paid, and that's all she cared about.
Didn't she end up marrying one of them? Lewis or Clark?
So,
I honestly have no idea. All right, this one should be a nice challenge for everybody.
All right.
Next topic. Boromir. How about we start with green this time?
Um, I'm gonna go chaotic good, because he, if I remember right, like he's the one who's like, "Oh, we have the ring, we can use it." Like, that's kind of an any means necessary.
Fair
So
enough.
he's attempting to preserve order. He's trying to save life, um, but he's willing to do most anything. I mean, even use the enemy's weapon against him, which never works. Um, so I'm gonna go like good chaotic.
All right, all right. Next.
Okay, I'm gonna go the complete embodiment of lawful good, because I mean, I'm not a Lord of the Rings expert, but pre-Ring he was over the top, like the perfect son that works for his people and is willing to sacrifice anything for his people, and kiss babies and all of that, like over the top, like I'm the perfect heir to the, not exactly heir to the Gondor throne, but the replacement instead of the actual king. Um, and the Ring's whole thing is it can take basically no matter how noble you are and twist you, with hobbits kind of having natural resilience to it. And so it's just that you felt the ultimate temptation of the entire setting, that to me is not a example of weakness of your character. I mean, even Gandalf was like, I'm not touching that ring because, I know I can't bear it because I'm going to fall to it too. And he's like, as far as a steadfast character. So I don't feel like the
Right.
ring is a fair representation of his character. I feel like leading up to it, seeing that he's the perfect Boy Scout soldier. So, strong,
I like
lawful
it.
good.
I like it. All right, Whoosh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one, right? Because I'm trying to compare him, because like that's the nice thing that Tolkien does, is that everyone has someone you can compare him to, or her to, depending. And like Boromir, you can face him up against like Faramir or Aragorn, but like at the end of the day, I just kind of feel like he was stupid, I guess. Like the good people in Lord of the Rings were like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that thing because that's the wrong thing to do. But Boromir was like, why can't we just use the ring? Right? So like,
So lawful stupid then, or
yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of think that like if he would have understood, then he would have agreed with them, and he would have like been a good person. But just the fact that he didn't realize what he was getting into.
So I don't think it's fair to call him stupid, because he's the one with the brilliant idea to put it in a catapult and fling it into the mountain.
wait, what?
Am I the only one who's seen that meme? It's like one of the original memes.
No, I missed that one.
No.
Oh, come
Go
on, it's
find-
awesome. There's
You
one
need to-
about bears,
No,
lasers,
no.
and there's one. Okay, whatever.
You gotta go find that right now.
Okay, sure.
Where?
It's like 2 minutes, but
We're adding that to the video.
here.
Yeah, one does not simply mention a meme and not.
And then
All
that's
right.
horrible,
Okay.
man. That's
It's-
horrible.
It is
George.
here. Do we want to watch through it? And then
Oh no, is it a video? I thought you said meme.
it's a GIF with stills from the movie, and they put captions, and it's like 2 minutes long. It's like
All right, we don't
fantastic.
need to watch it now. We'll add
Okay.
it though. All right. I was gonna go with neutral good personally. I felt like he wanted to be a good guy. He just was willing to do pretty much anything to get there. And he also kind of had a love-hate relationship with the rules. It seemed like wanted to be the paladin, wanted to be the lawful good, and kind of veered in his execution. All right, I think one more, guys.
Sure.
All right, last one, and this is going to be potentially more challenging. Considering he's got two personalities, Smeagol, Gollum.
I sense a Lord of the Rings theme.
Really, that's the only two I promised.
So we're talking about late stages, like you see during the trilogy.
I'm not going to qualify it. I'm going to make it complicated for you.
Oh my! But you did say it's Smeagol, not Gollum.
Smeagol or Gollum or
Oh.
Smallum. Green, you want to go first this time?
Sure.
All right, next you go first.
Oh man.
I'm
I'm
gonna.
just trying to like put together everything that I know about.
I'm just giving you extra time.
So first of all, I'm gonna go with evil in that. So I mean, like ignoring like his redemption at the end, and I'm going with kind of trilogy one because he let so we could pick. Um, because he's I mean, he's at that point completely corrupted by the ring, and that's like the example we have of him. So I know this goes against what I said in Boromir, but this is who he is at this point, and he's constantly acting in self-interest. And if we find anybody in a walk of life that constantly doesn't discards other people and acts in self-interest, if they have sufficient ability and limited restrictions, they typically do what we call evil acts, like murder or whatever, theft. And he was restrained a large portion of the trilogy, so he didn't end up doing anything. Like, he couldn't take those steps, but he was still ultimately motivated by his own lust for the ring. So he had fully given into, or basically fully given into the lust of the ring, and his last dying act was the lust for the ring. So I'm gonna go with evil. Since he totally doesn't care about social norms like at all, again, it was just totally consumed him to be with the ring. I'm gonna call him also chaotic, so chaotic evil.
All right. Wish, what do you got?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna also go with. Well, I don't know if he's so much evil, right? Because like if you think about it, what he would really want to do is just like go back to and live in his cave forever, right? Like I mean, sure he eats orcs, but like he would just want to sort of be left alone. He doesn't want to like take over the world. He just wants to sort of be himself. So I think he's sort of a neutral kind of person. But then again, I guess he has a lot of fear. Like there's always people that are above him. He's like, get the ring so that the ring can tell me what to do, and like take them to the what's the lady spider's name?
Shelob.
Shelob?
Shelob, yeah. Yeah, he's like, yeah, she can finish them off. And like Nex said, he was restrained a lot of time. It always felt like someone else was in control of him. Like, well, I guess I'm thinking of Smeagol more than Gollum, right? Because Gollum, it was also in control. Right, so I forget where I was going with that. Oh, I guess lawful, right? Because like lawful, you're sort of obeying things. You're not like taking things into your own hands. And I felt like he just never had the ability to take things into his own hands.
That
So
I wouldn't have thought of.
Lawful neutral, I think.
All right, me personally. Green, are you ready?
So I've
Are you
got some
ready?
time to think about it.
All right, fantastic. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with lawful evil, because the first introduction that we have to Smeagol is actually the murder of his friend when they find the ring for the first time. Like that's how he becomes. That starts him on his path. Like he finds the ring. It's like, oh, but it's my birthday, and that's supposed to be a present. And his friend's like, no, I want it. And just like smash. And then he can't stay in the Shire, so he has to go off, and he takes the ring with him. I mean, at that point, he's definitely completely self-interested. I mean, and always was completely self-interested. And even all the way at the end, like right before he drops into the volcano, like he's still evil, dude. He's still interested in getting that thing for himself. Doesn't care who else gets in the way. Doesn't really care about chaos, about social norms. Doesn't care about order. So I'm gonna go chaotic evil. And that's my opinion on that.
Fantastic. So, I'm going to have to disagree with you because what would the fun be in agreeing with everybody? I would argue that at some point there was some good in there because he had a friend at least. So either his friend likes constant abuse and attempted murder, or there was some good there once in a while. So selfish, yeah. Brought on by the ring a little bit, so maybe a little leverage or leeway there. I would say he's not chaotic or lawful because he doesn't really care. So I'd say completely ambivalent to chaos and law. So put him on a neutral scale there. And you know what? I'm going to go true neutral, right in the middle. Doesn't care about anything but the ring at this point, right? Was good, was bad. Doesn't care about the law, doesn't care about but doesn't actively fight the law either. It's just it's something he could care less about.
Sure. Okay.
All right, so let's see here. What do we have next on the agenda for this evening? All right, so our main topic tonight, I wanted to discuss world building itself, which kind of makes sense considering that's what our purpose for gathering is to discuss. And we're not talking about the site at this point, but world building itself. What made you interested in doing it in the first place? What draws you to it? Why do you keep coming back? Why is it something? I don't know. Is hobby the right word? Is it a hobby?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hobby, pastime, that kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, Green, are you ready to start this time?
I'm ready to start this time.
All right, you can go first this time.
So I've, in one form or another, I've done world building my entire life. I imagine what it would be like if such a thing or such and such a thing was possible. Probably 5-6 years ago, I bought a giant pad of graph paper, and I imagined a world. It was a wizarding school, and there was teleportation, and like bound demons. There was, because I'm a programmer, there was a bunch of magical programming thrown in there.
At some point we have to talk about that.
Yeah,
We'll come back to it.
And so I drew out this huge map. There was a place called the Weave where it was like a magical test range where you'd like in real life you do nuclear tests, and then just kind of makes the whole area kind of strange, and you don't really want to go there. So the Weave was a magical test range, and eventually reality just goes really weird, and interesting stuff happens there. So I built up the whole world, and then I found that I had absolutely no interest whatsoever in developing the characters for that world. Like, I don't really care what happens to you, but the world itself and how all of the parts go together and how they work.
But I gave you a cool place to hang out.
Yeah. And I'll give it to somebody else and you can write the story. So, and then the same thing happens on the world building Stack Exchange. People have cool ideas and I'm like, sure, I'll work with that.
You've done some cool work, and we'll talk about that. So, next, what about you?
So I've been doing world building since literally as far as back my memory stretches, but it was like, really pathetic stuff when I was a kid. There was like this booklet where they would give you like a description of something, and you had to describe it like a 5-sentence story. And I'd always sort of like describe something, start working around the back. And eventually it was like really thick, and I worked through all of them like in 3 months or something, sitting there in my, I don't even know if I was in grade school yet, writing out these worlds. It kind of died down. I ended up Star Wars Galaxy, which was a complete failure of an MMORPG, but I was addicted to it before it released, and I got into role playing. Created my namesake character, Nexterin, that carried me to just a series of internet forums, making different storylines, making different characters. Skies of Arcadia being the main one, if anyone heard of that game. It's not that great of a game, but it's delightful. It's like a guilty pleasure. It's like, I know this isn't high quality, but I still like playing it again because, it's just uplifting, and it's, it's kind of fun. It's kind of steampunk.
Nostalgia going for it. That's cool.
Yeah. So that just kept going, various things. I ended up just making just tons of worlds, and when I would run in high school and in college, I usually ran with the family members, and we'd world build on the trail. It was just some activity we did, so we'd run for like an hour and a half, and
that's cool.
Sit there and just discuss various things we came up with. I've never really written the story. I just keep building different worlds of different. Ended up doing some tabletop GMing, and I never used default worlds, so that's about the closest thing to applied world building. But mostly I just build worlds for the sake of it, because I just find it a ton of fun.
Nice.
So.
Cool.
That's cool, man.
Thanks.
All right, Whoosh.
Oh yeah. What was the original question?
The original question was what makes you interested in world building in the first place? Why do you like it? Why do you do it? Why do you keep coming back to it?
Right. Okay. Well, I would say that I do this thing. I guess you guys have probably seen it in the chat, where if like something is even like mentioned, like some strange idea, like a what if question, like I will follow it as far as I can. Like there's a booze rat series of questions going around about rats that
I've
have
seen
like
those.
alcohol in them somewhere, and like I just started thinking, like what would that mean for architecture? Like, well, how would you build a house if you had rats like that were just full of alcohol? Oh yeah, also they breathe fire because like why not?
Obviously, why
Sure,
not?
I mean,
Yeah. So like if you have like flammable rats just all over the place, like what would that look like? How
So
would you have to build your society?
so it's more of a compulsion for you.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
like my brain has like this virus of just any time that there's like a little idea, it just grows,
Squirrel.
and I have to see where it goes. Yeah.
All
So
right.
DeWoosh is Doug Woosh.
Doug.
That's the name of the dog, right? Doug?
The dog. Yes, the dog's name was Doug,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is still funny. All right. Let's see. You good? Anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. I myself, let's see. I think I started playing the original Zelda when I was like 6. I can't remember when exactly it came out, but basically ever since then, and it's kind of similar to you, Woosh. My brain kind of wanders down paths where I'm like, I wonder what would happen if, and then it gets weird, and
I
but
think that happens to all of us. Because
yeah,
I'll do the same thing.
yeah, I think you're right. So anyway, my ADD kicks in when I'm in class, and it has ever since grade school. But so through high school, through college, and on through real life, I've always had a notebook with me. And anytime my brain starts to wander off, I just start drawing pictures, or I start writing a story, or start jotting ideas down. And let's see, my master's is in international relations. So you guys have probably seen a lot of the stuff I've written on the site has to do with politics and international stuff and how countries interact
Which
with each other.
I appreciate a lot. Because I love getting your bounties.
Yeah, you do have a fantastic ability to get those. We're going to have to explain bounties at some point. All right, we'll talk about the site in a bit. Well, actually, you know what? Everybody that's going to listen to this is probably going to be from the site, but we'll still explain it just to be polite in case somebody gets lost on the internet. So other than that, I've got a story that I've been working on since I think the first characters and the first concepts that are actually still in the story probably showed up my sophomore year of high school, maybe. So
Wow.
15 years ago, 16. How old am I now? Yeah, so about 20 years ago, actually. So yeah, it's been evolving ever since then. I think I've got something along the lines of 250,000 words written, ballpark. Don't get too excited. It's not like a coherent storyline. There's random pieces from this character in this timeline, like 500 years before the main story is set with these 3 characters. So yeah, I got a lot written down, but don't get too excited.
Isn't NaNoWriMo in November like 50,000 words, and you've got 5 years worth of
Well, it only took me 20 years to
work?
do it.
Only 20 years.
So yeah, and then just world building itself. We'll talk about the site later. I don't want to get too far into that. We'll end up talking about that for the entire time. So the next question I had for you guys is, you can pick anyone, be it someone we know, some random author. Who is your favorite, or you could argue best? Who is the best or your favorite world builder? And I won't put any restrictions on that. You can go with whatever you're feeling. So next, you want to go on this one?
I specifically asked to go last, and he calls me first.
Oh, you're right. That's my bad. Woosh, you ready?
Maybe. Wait, what was that?
It's
was
your
that a
favorite
two-part
world
question?
builder, or the best world builder, or your favorite world builder. Either one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And if that's 2 different names, that's fine.
Yeah. I was trying to. I probably should have looked harder. I was trying to find the guy that does like the story for Bungie. I'm pretty sure he got fired at some point in time, so like he's not working for them anymore. But like the guy who did stuff for Halo.
Oh, I cannot think of that guy's name.
Here.
Yeah.
Halo,
Yeah, me neither.
right?
Quick,
like-
somebody Google it.
We can find a face of him and put it up eventually.
How did we
The
function-
second, if I type in Halo Writer, and the second hit is Joseph Stalin.
Wait,
Oh,
what?
Staten,
that sounds
Staten.
right.
That's
Staten,
not right.
Yeah.
That might be him.
That might be a different book.
Known for Halo Contact Harvest.
Yeah, no, Staten. Yeah,
Okay.
that guy.
Oh,
I think it's that guy. I don't know how much like he has to do with the stuff that I have seen. I think he wrote a book. I think I read a book. that he
Can you
wrote
go
in
just
Halo
with the
universe.
creative team behind this Halo games? Is that fair enough?
Yeah, let's do that.
It is cool
Yeah,
world.
it's a nice. I like the feeling of it. I like the fact that it's like World War II in space.
Yes. Which, let's be honest, is
Yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Of course, that
yeah. It's like yeah.
World War II in space is a popular thing for science fiction.
Well, because it looks awesome.
You know, it's like it's the most. I don't want to say World War II was a good thing, but like it's the as far as a interesting warfare to me, it's like the peak. You know.
Agreed.
Yeah,
All
it's like
right.
the best and the worst of the warfare.
Right. All right,
Yeah.
Green. How about you?
So to be fair, I didn't pre-research this question, so it's kind of off the cuff.
That will make it funnier.
So I think Frank Herbert is, I don't know if he's the best, because a lot of people have made some really compelling worlds. Certainly Dune is very, very compelling. I think the reason that he's my favorite is he's the first kind of adult level science fiction author that I found and have read multiple times. I think Dune is the only science fiction book that I've read through and like, I think I need to go back and read that again because there's some stuff that I missed and I've read through that book numerous times. And everybody else like, oh, okay, well, that was cool. I mean, I'll probably go back and read the Foundation series by Asimov at sometime in the future. But Dune was the most consistent book.
So what about the world makes it your favorite?
The thing that appealed to me at the time was it was a description of a physical planet. The physical place, Arrakis, is a singular place, the complete Dune world. I appreciated that Herbert wrapped in politics, economics, combat, warfare, and was really specific about all of those things. And to my teenage brain, all of those systems were coherent. I'm sure I'd look at it now like, I don't know. But I appreciated the coherent world that he was able to put together and so many aspects of real life that he was able to wrap into it, which you don't see very often. Usually the emphasis is on space combat and economics or politics and combat. You don't usually get the broad everything.
So it's the scope and the depth at the same time, really.
Yeah. And he didn't do it ponderously, like.
It wasn't painful.
Yeah, it's not painful, and it wasn't like, okay, so this is the 10th page on politics. He just kind of wove it into the story, and it all made sense.
Which is not, let's be honest, easy to do.
That's really hard.
Yeah. All right. So since next wants to go last, it's hard to argue with Star Wars, not because it's realistic, but you've got lightsabers, and if anybody's
Space opera.
it is, and then you've got the basilisk, which the Mandalorians ride down on the planet, which is arguably the coolest concept in space combat ever created. We can argue about that
I'm
later if you
not
guys want.
familiar with that one.
It's like a one-person torpedo that they drop from space onto the ground with. Yeah, it's one of the coolest things ever. But that said, I'm gonna have to go with Christopher Paolini. I think. Anybody read Aragon?
I read the first two when they came out, which was like forever ago for me. I guess I was in college actually.
Yeah, the movie was terrible.
Yeah, the movie was just so like it was like the quintessential example of messing up a book because they introduced tons of stuff and they altered tons of stuff and
It was terrible. It was
Yeah.
terrible. But in the books, the magic system alone would probably be enough for me to give it to him. Essentially, the short version of the magic system is anything you cast, any spell, any effect you try and create takes energy, and it takes the equivalent energy, and it draws that energy from the human body. Which, by itself, that concept's not totally unique or original, but then he added things into it, like the caster that's skilled enough can also draw energy from life around him. And then tied into magic was the ability to read minds and control people's bodies and do all sorts of cool stuff. So that alone was awesome. He also put people on the backs of dragons, which is always a bonus. You can't really go wrong putting somebody on the back of a dragon. It always turns out cool. Yeah, right. The history, like the amount of background detail and history he put into the story was fantastic. It did get kind of, as we were mentioning about doing it, he was a much young. I mean, granted, Paolini was a much younger author, but didn't have quite the skill in weaving it all together. Sometimes introduced politics into it that were believable and interesting, and it just felt like a very accurate portrayal of a medieval world, but a fantasy. So you had there's an entire chapter on him forging a sword. Now having some idea of how to do that, very accurate, and it was that kind right. Well, the thing is, I read the book before I figured out how to make knives and stuff. So reading it after the fact, I went back and read it, and I'm like, huh, he's kind of got it down. So clearly, lots of research and lots of fairly accurate, real world detail and stuff like that. So that was kind of awesome. Created his own languages. So yeah, I'd have to give it to him.
So I have an addendum to mine.
All right,
if we
shoot.
have time.
Yeah, go for it.
Anybody heard of Dan Simmons? He wrote the Hyperion series.
Know the name, have not yet read that series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not this. Dan Simmons also builds a very full-featured world, much like Frank Herbert did. But Dan Simmons puts in really amazing features, like the singular, the character that the Hyperion series is known for is the Shrike. It's this 7 to 10 foot high walking barbed wire fence, and it's like spikes everywhere.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, and to make it worse, like the Shrike can teleport. You can't kill it. You can't shoot it. If you try and fly into his area, you just kind of disappear, and nobody knows what happens to you. The ship is fine, but you disappear. No
That's
struggle, you're just gone.
completely terrifying.
It's terrifying. And he just does a really, really good, like, that book blew me away. I mean, if this is turning into a book recommendations, like Hyperion, it's really, really good.
I'll let you do it, but we could probably do an entire episode on just, hey, you should read this book and here's why. And
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody would listen to that.
It might be a different
People listen to
podcast.
book review shows
Yeah,
already.
that's probably a different podcast. All right, next, you requested last. What do you got? It better be good.
Okay, so obviously, now these are all good suggestions so far, but obviously the best world builder that we've seen in modern times or historic is Michael Bay, because he shows such originality in crafting these worlds like Transformers and Transformers 2. and let's be honest, what is the highest calling? Is it building a
The
world
best part is
or blowing it
you
up?
can keep a straight face.
I feel like blowing up the world that you create is really it's the part that most people leave off. So, fine. Okay, in seriousness, Robert Jordan made the Wheel of Time.
Yeah,
as
that's a
I
good answer.
as I went into the books, I never finished the series because I feel like he's a better world
Died.
builder. He actually died before the last one, but I didn't make it that far. He's a better world builder, and he makes like good characters, but then he's not a good plot maker, and so his characters and his world get convoluted and lost in the plot. But he's really good in creating just these multiple layers of complexity and start you out with like a simple concept, and you learn about these big things, and you learn these depth. Like, oh, here's another layer, or here's this important piece of history, and it fits in, and it really does. It's meaningful, and it just keeps like multiple layers and deeper, like learning about the Aes Sedai, the people, the magical women, and at first it just seems like, surface layer, high, they're a group of witches and whatever. But then he keeps adding, history and how this interrelates with this, and how this basic fundamental force of the world works with, and it's cool to keep exploring these different layers, and it keeps going deeper and deeper, and to me, especially because of the history aspect, to me, like, that's what I want to aspire to be, not necessarily for fantasy, but just in general. That I can craft a world that you can see high level and enjoy, and then just keep digging deeper and deeper, and every level is meaningful and it relates. So.
I like it.
Cool.
Okay,
Good
so that's
answer.
another book recommendation. I'll have to add that to my list. Awesome. You guys, seriously, the biggest problem I have with the world building crowd is that I have a book list of like 50 books that I have to read
I know it.
to catch up with everybody. It's obnoxious. Which keeps me from actually writing my story. All right, so last, call it interview question for everybody. What are you currently building, and where are you in it? Let's go with next. You want to go first this time?
I am making a whole bunch of stuff because it's kind of what I do. So what normally happens is I build a world and I get to one point and I don't like it and I can't quite get things I feel that I like, and I'll make another world and I end up taking like, okay, well, I like this piece of that world, I'll add it to this world, or I'll take a piece of two different worlds and combine them. And so I just got the habit of just making dozens of worlds at a time, and then I just kill them off and hack off the pieces and rework the pieces or themes or something. I'm in process. One setting I've been making since for the last, I don't know, decade and a half. I'm in process, I think, of carving it up because I like the setting, but I can never make a plot that works for it because it's kind of what Green had. I can never get characters that I am invested in or I think people would be invested in, but I like the world. I have a bias towards World War II, either the actual period or bringing that flavor in. I do it sometimes a little bit obnoxiously in my settings, kind of like steampunk obnoxiously can bring in Victorian era stuff. I guess I do diesel punk. It's a thing.
Sure it is.
And Wikipedia's an article. It must be a thing.
Oh Lord.
Oh,
If that's our basis for reality, we're in trouble.
Okay, so actually, I don't remember. It was some kind of a prestigious university like Princeton or something. Don't quote me on that. But they went through the Encyclopedia Britannica and it was still publishing physical issues, which was not that long ago, in Wikipedia, and they had experts in the field, like scientific fields, and they found just as many errors in Wikipedia articles as Encyclopedia Britannica. So it's not as inaccurate as everyone makes it out to be. It's actually a better resource. But yeah, so
easier anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm currently working on one where it's set in like 1980s, but culture kind of collapsed and froze in the World War II kind of post as they discover some alien technology. I'm working on one which is a very space opera-y, and all the worlds are based on different periods of human civilization. And so I'm getting kind of cool, so you can see like these two different cultures that obviously shouldn't go together, but interact, and so I like playing around with that. I'm doing a world that's a superhero world, but I'm trying to do the Robert Jordan thing where it seems like a generic superhero world, but you keep learning about the various aspects of it and everything interrelates going back in. That one, it actually ends up involving time travel. Of course, it does. It has a pinning plot, but it's worked in not. So at the end of the story, I hope that the readers don't really care about the time travel. They care about the characters and the way that it changed modern civilization. In really just the small actors part. Again, I'm trying to do the multiple layers. It's not like, big governments fell. At the end of the story, I hope nobody cares about the, United States government was a big player at all. They should, at the end of the story, seem like minor players. And just seeing all the little pieces that you thought you saw on the surface, but you thought were kind of like not that important work into the ending. So I'm trying to craft more meaningful than most superhero stories you see. So those, I guess,
Nice.
3 main, but I have like dozens, and so I won't go into all of them.
Nice. Yeah, we don't have time for 1,000. We'll cut you off at 3.
I appreciate that.
Woosh, how about you?
Oh, yeah, okay. So I have this one world that I'm working on. Like I said, I like the Halo idea of, like Halo and Mass Effect, this idea of being in a galaxy where there are like a certain number of aliens and there is some sort of war going on. And I just like that because I guess that's the kind of stories that I like to tell. I like to tell just like people fighting, I guess. So over the past few years, I've got this idea of like how I can set up this world, and the problem that I'm having currently is that I want there to be room for everything in this one world. I want it to be like a world where I can do literally any story. So I want it to be like hard sci-fi and soft sci-fi at the same time.
That's going to be a challenge.
How do you do that?
Different universes.
Have you accomplished it, or is this what you want?
It's what I want. I'm getting sort of close to it. The way that I decided it is that when the first 2 alien species found each other, they pretty much annihilated each other. They like effectively destroyed each other's space programs because, like, of course you would. If you had enough technology to use FTL, then you're gonna destroy a lot of things. So it took them like thousands of years to get back to where they used to be, and like when they got there, they were like, well, we can't have this happen again. So first of all, anytime we meet any new aliens, we're going to do the exact same thing to them so that they learn the same story that we learned. And then also we're going to set up a bunch of like checks and balances. Yeah, like
That's pretty
So-
brutal.
yeah, no, but that's the cool thing is that I figured if like almost all of society was destroyed, then whatever came back could be like anywhere in a very large spectrum, right? So like you have one human planet that has like a lot of resources and it would just bounce back immediately. You have another place that's like a desert and then it'd be Mad Max for centuries. And
Nice.
so yeah, if I just have like my setting during the time when like all of this is coming together, then I think I can get like a few decades of literally anything happening. So yeah,
I like
right now
it.
I'm just trying to get that history, trying to figure out like what planets I have and like what technology level they have and like when they meet up, and I'm even just trying to figure out all of the mercenary armies that I have. I have like 10 of them right now. I'm trying to figure out like what each of them do.
Wow.
So yeah.
You need to invest in like cork boards and pins and yarn, I think.
That is actually a really good idea.
So
Put it all up on the wall.
I've actually tried that before, and then you're like, I want to change this, or I need to reposition this, and then none of the strings work, and you have to untangle it. It's horrible. Don't actually do that. Don't actually do that. I've tried it. I went down that path. Don't make my mistake.
I'm just gonna say there's this thing called scissors. You just cut the one string, man.
So you cut the one string, but you want to like reposition this item over here, and so you have to go and like remove the whole string, but it's intertwined. And it's like, okay, well now this one doesn't move. So it's like you're trying to like, have you worked with Visio or Google Draw or something like that with the diagram? Yeah, so it's like those are really easy. Just like boom, boom. Okay, I'm done. It's everything resizes. But this is like I'm running out of room. The cork board, so I have to kind of like push everything around. So now I have droopy strings, and it's a
You
nightmare.
don't do it in need space, man.
You don't look like nearly as much of a weirdo if you don't do it with yarn, though.
That's true. That's true.
All right, let's see here. Green?
Yep. So I don't have any worlds that I'm actively working on right now. part of the reason that I'm on world building is because analyzing other people's worlds is really interesting. Um, and so I go work on somebody else's world, like, oh yeah, that would work, or this is how this would work. Um, sorry, it's not a very interesting.
No, hey,
No?
you know what? World building for the sake of world building is perfectly acceptable with us.
And it's a different perspective of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favorite user world in mind? Something that you like to work on and help, or somebody you like to help with their ideas?
So one of my favorite answers and questions was about a year ago, and the question was: is it possible to have a human-sized creature that lives almost entirely off of cloth? And my answer was, yeah, you can actually, because cotton is just carbohydrates and wool is protein. You just have to find a source for your fats, or you tweak the biology of this creature so that it will synthesize its own oils. Minerals would be a good trick. You'd have to eat something else to get it.
Make sure the cloth is dirty before you eat it.
Right. I thought about that. If you if you didn't want to have the creature synthesize its own fats, you could go use it, or you could have it preferentially eat dirty stuff. So you literally have the dirty sock monster that will eat all of your socks. Not because it's like, oh, such a marvelous bouquet, but it actually needs the stuff that you leave behind in your socks when you take them off at the end of the day.
It's like people who like, want salty stuff because they don't have enough salt. They would like want dirty socks.
Yeah, or like he really likes blue cloth because blue has a particular, like the dye contains a sufficient amount of the mineral that this creature needs or something. So we took it a step further and said, okay, so cotton and wool are like veggies and meat. But what about junk food? And so I took it a step further. So I took it a step further and I said, okay, well, we also have a lot of synthetic cloth, which is made of like petrochemicals, really, really high on the protein, on the energy scale, but probably not that great for you. So it's like you find this like polar tech fleece, you're like, cotton candy. You just eat the whole thing and you're like, oh, I feel so sick.
That is bizarre. I like it.
I would immediately saw that question, go, nope, I moved on with but no, you figured it out.
See, but the thing about world building is, yeah, you can run across those questions, but sometimes it's way more fun. It's like, okay, so your premise is really whacked, but let's just see what happens if we make it like, could this thing happen? Go Mythbusters on it, like.
And it's way more interesting that way, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, so since we're on the topic, World Building Stack Exchange is how we all got together in the first place. It's been up for just over 2 years now, something like that.
Yeah, just over 2, yeah. Or just over 1?
2 years.
Was it 2 years?
No, we got the 2-year badge now.
2.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So the premise of the site is that people like us, if that doesn't terrify you already, get together and discuss building worlds. So you can come there with your questions and be like, hey, I'm no expert in biology or chemistry or physics or astronomy or politics, culture, whatever the case may be, and say, hey, here's my question. How do I make this work? And people come up with answers for you, and it gets kind of strange. So we actually picked up a few questions that my co-host and I have discussed that we each found interesting for one reason or another. So if you guys want to introduce your question, we'll start with the top of the list. Question is, how do you establish identity when people can change their appearance at will?
Oh, that's a good question.
Isn't it? So the idea here, was that one yours, Green?
Yeah, that one's mine.
All right, go ahead if you want to chat about it briefly, and then we can.
So the premise of the question is, you're some decades in the future. Earth-based universe. Everything else is the same. But humanity has picked up the ability to change their appearance at will through genetic manipulation. How exactly that works is outside the scope of the question. You just give yourself a shot or get a shot, and sometime later you look like whatever you want. All characteristics are mutable. You can change gender if you want. You can be no gender. You can be both. It doesn't matter. You can go from fair skin to dark skin. You can change your hair color. You can change your skin color. All things are up for negotiation, which is a bit of a problem because so much of how we identify each other is based on our physical appearance, which we currently hold to be immutable. My face is going to be my face for my entire life, but what happens when I can now look like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie or whoever you want?
Half and
you
half.
can, yeah. How do you establish identity? I don't remember what the answer was, but
so next,
that was my question.
Bruce, what do you guys think on answers for that? How would you approach answering that question?
So it seems inherently like it would be chaotic. There would also be just a natural, I wouldn't call it distrust. It would just be like a fundamental society would develop, where it's like I see you and that doesn't convey any meaning. It's like just because you find out somebody's favorite color is blue, that doesn't mean you know that person. So just because you see their
Right.
face or hear their vocal cords, and it wouldn't be like are you really my brother? Are you really my best friend? It would just be the assumption that was meaningless information. I'm assuming that would just come point in trench because it would just be so easy, it would just be so assumed, unless there's some kind of cultural taboo against changing your appearance, which maybe you could take it down that route. And so people would probably be a lot more the human brain is focused on trying to pick out facial features because it's really important. And we're extremely able to pick out facial features. Large portions of our brain compared to any other symbol recognition, it's for facial features. So I imagine it might not be even that important, and maybe we're more focused on picking up characteristics. Because even if I look like Brad Pitt, I'm not going to walk like Brad Pitt or eat something like Brad Pitt in every one of his scenes, or have his various mannerisms. I'll act differently. They say military people can see another military person and say, oh, yeah, that's obviously I can see they're military.
That's completely true.
And so it's I wouldn't be able to go and fake being the Air Force like James is.
I was Air Force, so yeah. I can walk into a restaurant and be like, that dude's Air Force. You can just tell.
Uh-huh. So I'm assuming people would be hyperwired for that kind of thing, but for every mannerism. And so you get used to picking up people based on their facial twitches, their mannerisms, and how they looked. And it would almost be like a conversation, you'd see somebody who's Brad Pitt, 5 people with Brad Pitt, but you'd be able to think out, oh, that's the guy I know. Because, the way he blinks and stuff, and just be subconscious. Over time, I would assume something like that would evolve.
I like it. Yeah, and you'd have to figure that would probably evolve slowly. If one day everybody could just change their appearance
Yes.
at will, if it was just a flip a switch kind of deal, that would be a giant.
Yeah, if it was a
mess.
flip switch
Giant
deal, it would be a
mess.
huge mess, and the only people probably going to come are people 3 or 4 right now growing up. Would be the first generation that would be able to train themselves.
Sure.
If anyone lived that long.
I think people would live that long. It just might not be we might fall from the billion status to a much smaller number, but I can't imagine entirely humanity would get wiped out.
Whoosh, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Cause my first thought was that's kind of the way that the internet works. A lot of places you can change your name, you can change your avatar.
True.
And so I'm thinking that for the most part, people would want to have an identity. They would want to look a certain way and be different than everyone else. And maybe some people would try to look like people that they want to look like, but I guess there would be a certain you would know like Nex was saying, you would know if they're not the person that they're trying to look like, and then you would just know that they're trying to imitate them. And I guess I would wonder which way it would go, because I would think everyone would try to be themselves, so that it would be easier to tell that they were themselves, and maybe you would start to trust them more for that. I don't know. I guess I'm sort of thinking like short term, sort of like what would develop out of that. Like, what would the culture become?
Yeah, so it'd be like a literal version of being two-faced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see it going two ways. One way, you have people who are not heavily invested in their own identity and they want to become somebody else. But conversely, you have people who are very vested in their own identity. And so they would want to maintain that, even though they have the capacity to look like anything under the sun.
Yeah, so
It's like their identity psychology says, look, you're white, you're black, even though your color is different right now, like, this is still who you are.
yeah, so
And then they would stay to that.
my counter to that, and I think to Nex's point, would be, for us, if it happened to us today, I absolutely agree. But if you grew up with the ability to change and you never had would your identity be based on your skin color or hair color or facial features? If from birth you could just change them. And then the other piece was, I think humans want identity, right? We want to be known.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, and of course, maybe this is just a bad sign of how my brain works. But my first thought is the only time you're gonna use your abilities to transform yourself is when you're doing nefarious things and trying to get away with stuff. So, my initial thought was people want to be whoever it is they want to be. They could choose, right? But they would still pick an identity. They want to be known for something. And then when you need a day off or whatever the case may be, you need to borrow some money from a bank, you change your identity for the day. And I think there'd end up being a lot of genetic testing involved in that world.
Oh yeah.
So would
as
you
an
have-
addendum to the question,
Would your genetics change when you morph? Because, I mean, that's actually
yeah,
a
they
question.
Would all of
They
your
would.
genetics change, or just your physical
I guess it depends on how the
appearance
morphing
genes?
works. If it works on the genetics level, then...
Well,
Right.
it'd have to work on a genetic level to maintain it. Ooh, that's a tough one. All right, we're gonna
Right,
we could
I
ask.
mean, we've
we
talked
could
about
talk
this question
forever.
a lot, but
That's a good one.
Can we put links in the doobly-doo to the questions?
Oh, we absolutely will. Yes. Yep. You just want more points, don't.
Let's be honest here. You're a point mercenary.
All right.
But
next.
but there's also a lot more to the question that we didn't talk about,
Sure.
which talks about genetic manipulation.
But we got to discuss it
genes
without
and that
the
stuff.
restraint
Right,
of
there we go.
sharing opinions.
Reality on world building.
Next, I think the next one is yours. The Crimson Skies question.
So mine is not a question on world building. I decided to go for something like unique. So people from world building get something fresh taste. So there's
Green, I think he's calling you out, Green. Just.
that was not. I'm doing variety. 'cause
Pretty
he
sure
said
that's
he-
what just happened.
Okay, sure, yes. Green's been called out, the tardy member. So in Crimson Sky, it's quintessential like pulp action Indiana Jones. It's set like an alternate Earth, but it's between World War I and World War II technology levels. I think it's also that time period. But high adventure. Almost everything is airborne. So in it, there's zeppelins are kind of a big thing. Not everybody uses them, but they're kind of a staple of a way to get forces from one place to another. The main character in one of the games, I didn't play the original, uses Zeppelin, and he has I think 1 to 3 planes in it, and he kind of treats it like an aircraft carrier, where you drop off at the end, and that gives you a little bit more effective runway because there's that drop at the end. They treat, I think, kind of exaggerated version of that because you start going down since it's so high up. I don't think the game. Anyway, so it's a Zeppelin. It's an air launch. It doesn't theoretically need that very long runway because of that. And the concept is how practical is this? What would be obvious weaknesses? What would be obvious logistic errors? How could we accommodate for them? that kind of thing.
So you basically asked like Sky Captain in the world of tomorrow.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's another one that's kind of the same feel, same setting. Although I think Crimson Sky predates that by like a year or two. So, but yeah, it's the same kind of
Don't know
feel.
dates. Okay. So how do you make that concept feasible? Are
Yeah,
we
and what are
going
the main
hard science
issues?
on this
I
one?
guess, yeah. I don't
Well,
expect
the
got
obvious-
math,
We're going science-based.
science-based,
Yeah.
not no math, no numbers.
Okay. Yeah, because the biggest obvious problem is energy, right? You
Uh-huh.
need some ridiculously high energy density resource, like the arc reactor, but thousands of times more powerful.
Wait, what are you trying to power?
Your giant skyships.
So then they're not. They're literally like zeppelins, like hot air.
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Not hot
the
air, I
biggest
guess,
problem, the biggest problem is going to be people blowing up zeppelins. Then.
So one preconception I'd like to get out of the way. So have you ever seen the footage of the Hindenburg?
Obviously.
Yeah.
So as you watch it, it's on fire.
Humanity.
It's on fire, and it's on fire for a while. I don't know how. And eventually, you then see it explode. What you're seeing is most of the incident is actually the lead paint on fire, not the gas filling the Zeppelin. And eventually, as the lead paint continues to burn, the interior gets to the combustion point, and then the Zeppelin goes up. So the Hindenburg would not have happened if they wouldn't have used lead paint. So as far as the preconception, because that's the classic everyone points to of Zeppelins are unsafe, but we
We're
obviously
totally
still
gonna
use
fact
Zeppelins.
check you on this.
You can, yeah, Google around.
Yeah, we're going to fact check you on this. We'll talk about that in the next episode.
Okay.
But continue. Sorry. So
So-
your point is that zeppelins are safer than we think they are.
Safer. And they're actually still, you still see blimps in the sky. So there's still technology that's used today. They're just mostly for show.
Mhm.
So they're not like
And
we're like,
healing
that everybody
them, right?
dies when it goes up in them, and so we have to rid the world of them. So they get a bad rap because of publicity.
Okay, fair enough.
So
You
Whoosh, that's awesome.
man, I guess how do you manage industry when everything's airborne? How do you manage factories? How do you manage resource gathering? How do you manage? There's a lot of questions there, because I mean everybody has to have some sort of device that flies, right?
it's just like mostly military powers, I think, in the game. You can stray from the game. Sure, we could go full everybody's in Zeppelins. That sounds more interesting,
That's-
actually.
It is way more interesting. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
how do we
That's way
support
more
a
interesting.
nigh-complete Zeppelin society?
It could be a world on a gas giant.
Yeah, but where do you get your resources from? Because
I got
the
nothing.
metals in a gas giant are like 5,000 bar below you. Like, that's
Really?
not trivial to get to.
Really long ropes.
Really good pressure
2,000
suits
long.
that we
I
make
got
out of the stuff
nothing.
we have to go down there to get in the first place.
Oh right, that. Okay, so maybe a Terran planet.
So the issue. So I think the industry part is really interesting. Somebody else on world building shared the history of sword making, and with particular focus on how smelting works for iron. And it turns out that if you're going to smelt significant quantities of iron, you actually need enormous forges, because the bigger the forge, the more efficient it is, and the less fuel you have to put into it,
Yes.
because volume, surface area, that whole thing. So how you're going to put a 5,000 ton press, or well, how you're going to put a 100 or 200 ton smelter in a Zeppelin, not ignite the envelope, and keep it in the air, and keep it fueled, and get resources to it. That's a logistics nightmare.
So as a compromise, because I don't think we could possibly solve that, maybe we could.
You may have to write this up.
There's going to be the
Me?
civilization
Okay.
that predates
Somebody.
the Zeppelins. There's got to be a civilization somewhere. So they started out on, I'm assuming, planet side. So there might be still like a few cities that are the islands, in the sea of air, so that people do, have civilization still on. So maybe we could kind of get around that and give us some kind of leeway. I don't know.
Okay.
So we try to push most of it off, but there's still going to be those ports.
All right. That helps a lot, right? Because that's. I mean, even if
you can
resources, you don't even have to go into resources at that point because you have a home base, so to speak.
Right, and you can hand wave the rest of it.
Magic. hand waving is lazy. We're gonna have to dig into this further in chat, probably. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Because I like that idea. So the other question we had on the list is one I shared. I think this is probably the question that kept me, that made me realize this is a website that I'm going to keep coming back to, because I was at work one morning, and luckily I don't work for that company anymore, but whatever. I was at work one morning, and this question came up, and the question was basically, if ritual cannibalism was part of your society, would that lead to issues with disease and health? And it's one of those weird situations where somebody comes on the site, because this isn't my question.
This is DeSolan. He asks a lot of really good questions.
He does. But the idea is, we all come up with these ideas for worlds or concepts within worlds. And we go, this is totally bizarre, and I know it's bizarre. It might even be kind of creepy. But what do you think of this? And the answer that comes back is, oh, that's not as weird as you think. We do that on Earth. So when I was reading through the question,
happens so many times.
It's amazing what people know. So like I was reading through this question, the short version of the question is, assume you have a culture that eats some or all of their dead as part of the funeral rituals. And I was sitting at work and I was reading this question and I go, that sounds really familiar, and I did a couple quick searches to refresh myself, and I was like, oh, yeah, on New Guinea, there's the Foray tribe, and as part of their funeral rituals, they eat the brains of the deceased. And it has led to, shockingly, diseases. Mainly Kuru, which is a weird one. But then, of course, because it's world building, rather than just saying, oh, hey, yeah, we do that, here's an interesting fact. I kind of dove into a slightly morbid conversation about
which happens all the time.
Right. Which body parts you'd want to avoid, basically the vectors through which human diseases pass, whether it's airborne or digestive or bloodborne. And then I gave preparation instructions for cooking Bob. Yeah, at the end of the question I basically said, so if you're going to do this, not that I recommend it, but if you're going to do this, avoid the GI tract, because... Well, I didn't give okay, cut here directions. It was like, okay, you gotta wash everything really well.
How to butcher a human.
Well, yeah.
I think we just crossed the threshold right there.
Because that would be weird. Right? But it was basically, make sure you clean like you do an animal, and then make sure you clean like with soap and water, and then cook. There's temperature instructions for every kind of meat out there. I suppose you'd have to have one for human. And then, don't wait very long. And then I threw in a obviously necessary Monty Python meme.
Yeah, that was a good call.
From the bring out your dead moment. I'm not dead yet.
James didn't ask this question, but of
No.
all of the questions of site building he could have picked for the opening podcast, he felt this best described our community and himself.
I want to make sure people know what they're getting into.
And we have a little bit of insight from each of the persons what questions they asked or didn't ask.
Right. Well, so I answered this thing, and it is it the best question on the site? No, probably not. Is it the most interesting question on the site? No, probably not. Is it the question that made me go, I don't even care if there's nothing interesting on a given day. I'm going to keep coming back because stuff like this happens. And it's one of those, you're like, I never thought that today I would sit at work and look at this and go, oh yeah, I'm going to write up an answer about how to effectively and safely include cannibalism in your funeral rituals.
And 10 minutes later, you get a call from HR.
They didn't take that closely.
Good.
So I think there is something really, really important to notice about world building in general. It's true that we do talk occasionally, okay, sometimes more than occasionally, about some really, really macabre, really, really messed up stuff.
It happens.
It does. But I think what makes it permissible is that it's always done in a very clinical tone. Yes, you could do this, you could do this. Like, just the same way the gynecologist inspects women's private parts. But it's not a, ooh, how am I going to do this? It's,
That
okay,
face is creepy.
we have...
The hands made it though.
So it's... So, like, as a doctor, we have this thing. This is a problem. Let's fix this problem. Let's not be weird about it. Like, it's a problem that needs to get fixed. Okay, fine, we'll fix it. So, so in world building, there's the meta site, which talks about the process of world building and running the site. And somebody posted a question like, "Look, man, there's this really violent question and it really bothers me." And my answer was, okay, violence is real. It happens in real life. It happens in stories all the time. If somebody is advocating for violence, I'd flag that immediately. Moms, get that out of here.
That'd get torn up immediately.
That's totally unacceptable. But if you're like, this is how it would work in the flow of the story, okay, fine. Like, as long as it's clinical, it's okay.
Yeah,
we're not glorifying it. We're not advocating it. And that's like, I think, a division.
So to transition off that being the last topic we cover tonight, I will propose another question, and that would be the question, and this one is mine, is how would multi-race humanoid evolution happen? So in your standard fantasy realms, you've got humans and elves and dwarves
I love this question.
Orcs and half elves and gnomes and halflings and all that, right? So the question was basically, how in the world could you biologically and evolutionarily explain how you end up with starting here and having it branch out into all these different species? And he got some rather detailed and pretty fantastic questions where people actually came up with fake scientific names for elves, for example.
Homo sapiens sapiens, Homo sapiens loren, Homo dwarfus dwarfus, Homo dwarfus hobbitus.
Yeah.
Homo sapiens Mordor.
I mean, not terribly unique ideas for the names, but still awesome.
If you're listening to this person who said you came up with those names, we're sorry. They didn't mean it.
Yeah.
I did. I did. It was cursed.
Okay, we can insult him.
He can give me crap tomorrow if he or well, not tomorrow. Whenever we post this, he can give me crap for that if he wants to. So yeah, and that's one thing I love about the site is you can, in any given day, you can have questions that range from hard physics and astronomy. Basically, is this planetary alignment feasible? Can I have a planet that orbits two central stars that orbit each other? And then you can have things down to, hey, how would politics work with 8 different fantasy races existing in the same world in the same kingdom?
That's not one of my favorites.
It just came to mind because I wrote it. I think you got the answer on that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I got your bounty for that one too.
Yeah. So
it's all about the points for you.
Well, hey, internet points are fun, right? Why would we show up if there were no fake internet points?
They're perfectly real. Probably. They just don't have any value. Not fake internet points. They're worthless internet points.
Hey, I am a bigger nerd than... Actually, I don't know if I'm a bigger nerd than any of you at this point. Have you guys all passed me?
You mean as far as points?
I don't 3,000.
I don't think I passed you. No, I'm like 8, 7.
I think I'm pretty
7.
close to 24.
Yeah, no, I only joined the site like a month and a half ago, so I'm the noob.
Oh, it's been longer than that, hasn't it?
I don't know.
How did you get invited to this if you're that new?
Because I'm the one who instigated and organized it and made people actually do stuff. That's why. I am not
That's
the
a good way
host,
to
but
do
I am the
it.
one who made sure this thing didn't die at every one of the stages leading up to this point.
Yeah, I'm the idea guy, so I appreciate that you did that. I come up with awesome ideas. I just, follow through is kind of a pain in the ass sometimes.
Let's see, when did I...
I feel your pain, James. I feel your pain.
All right. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to talk about tonight? That's all I had planned and organized. So we will.
Another one of
Go ahead.
another one of my favorite questions is:
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah.
have a spaceship in a solar system. Normally your ship has faster than light travel, but you've gotten yourself stranded in a star system where the star is about to go supernova. You still have sublight drive, so you can get most anywhere in the solar system that you want. And when that star goes supernova, where is the safest place for you to be, other than really, really far away?
Right. Big planets, I guess. Try and hide in their shadow.
Yeah. So
I think
assuming
kinda SOL.
Yeah, I was like, do you want to end your
s-
suffering as fast as possible and just go straight to the stars?
Yeah.
Fly at it.
and you don't have a death wish.
Oh, well, that makes it a little more complicated then.
So assuming a like Earth solar system like planet, the best place I could come up with was immediately behind Jupiter, and then I did the math to find out how much energy was being delivered to Jupiter, and it turns out that every square kilometer of Jupiter they're dropping a 50 megaton weapon on it, which happens to be the biggest nuclear weapon that humanity has ever exploded.
SAR, right?
It was the Tsar Bomba. Yeah, Tsar Bomba from the Russians.
On every
every
what?
square kilometer.
Oh. Yeah, you might not.
There's
so
a
behind,
beautiful diagram to explain how powerful the SAR was.
bound behind Pluto, maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
clearly the farther
really-
out you go, the better.
really
I mean,
far.
honestly, yeah, I feel like as long as you're allowed to be within the solar system, it seems like behind the largest, but like being farther away matters more because it's just the exponential surface area of the explosion.
Right.
But if you can only make out, only so far, Jupiter makes sense to me. I don't know. I guess I mean that's a really big bomb, but when we test the nukes, it's not like we altered the shape of the Earth. At least not that we could like visually see.
But
So-
we would if we dropped one on every square kilometer.
So I still feel okay. Like how much percentage do you think we got to the core?
Wow.
Some
That's a lot
small,
of energy, man.
Well, with one of our the biggest nuclear bomb we set off, which I guess was the SAR was the biggest. Did we actually set that off, or
I
we
think
just
so.
build it?
Mhm,
Okay.
yeah.
What percentage to the core of the Earth do we think we get? Because like I heard that if the Earth was a beach ball, the deepest part of the ocean is the thickness of a sheet of paper. So I'm assuming that our nuke we didn't drop didn't burn through all the way to the the bottom of the Pacific.
No, it certainly didn't.
So even if we're I just don't feel like that's we're barely cutting into that this piece of paper just very very slightly with one of them. So even if we do hundreds of that much, we're still probably not getting the bottom of that sheet of paper.
Well, you're talking millions of them.
So we go millions, and so we start hitting the crust.
You're talking billions of them.
Okay,
That's
so
Jupiter's really big.
thickness. Well, yeah, it's big, but it increases so thickness of paper. Let's figure this out. It's a tenth of a millimeter.
Lord. We are not doing math on the show. No
Okay,
math.
I feel like
No math.
I am without doing
Do it
math.
on your own time.
Without doing math, I feel like Jupiter actually, if that is the correct number that Green came up with as far as the force, and there was another question like, can we destroy Earth if we used all of the nuclear weapons in the idealist position possible? And the answer was basically, are you completely out of your mind? Humanity doesn't have nearly that much energy to harm Earth as far as like break it apart.
Right.
So I feel like even though we go into millions and billions of times, our weapon honestly is we're not like a class 3 civilization. We're still pretty limited in our toys. To the surface of the Earth, we can mess it up. And Jupiter is way bigger than Earth. And that you have to go into layers. I don't know.
All right. Well,
That's my opinion.
there is math to be done. We're just not going to do it right now.
Ever.
Right.
All right. So, included with this podcast, we will put a blog post together on Medium, and the links to both Medium and world building will be shared with everybody, so feel free to join us there. And to all those on the site who make conversations like this as insane and sometimes asinine as they may be possible, we thank you profusely, and we anticipate doing this again. We'll see who comes back, and we will probably start introducing some people that have made effective worlds for storytelling, and I'm asking them how they use it as well. So the topic will vary from episode to episode, and we'll try and figure that out and work with it along the way. But first episode, at least I was entertained, and really to me that's all that matters.
I'm glad you're looking out for the greater good.
Yeah, I guess I'm chaotic, selfish.
No, that would be lawful good. You're Tao.
Oh, absolutely
No, you're
not. Okay. Just are you feeling okay? I thought you had a small brain injury just happened there for a second. But I want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. I had a good time,
Thanks very
and
much.